Welcome to the Lisners Podcast, where we dive deep into the world of mental health. Here, we bring you insights, stories, and expert advice to help you understand, navigate, and thrive in your mental wellness journey. Let's start building a more mindful world together.
Today, we're going deep on something a little more personal and often kept hush-hush masturbation.
Yeah.
You sent in a really interesting mix of articles. So it's like you're curious about it, all the good, the bad, the potential benefits, the whole addiction thing. And, of course, how it all ties into mental health and relationships.
For sure.
So
yeah, let's jump right in.
let's dive in.
It's fascinating to me that across all these sources, there's this common ground. Masturbation is totally normal,
Right.
healthy.
Yeah.
Even feels like step one here is busting some myths.
It's wild how those myths just stick around. You know?
Totally.
Like some distorted game of telephone.
Uh-huh.
So to anyone out there still worried about going blind,
Yeah.
let's be clear, masturbation won't hurt you.
Not at all. Blindness, hair on your palms, infertility, all those are just old wives' tales.
Right.
No basis, in fact, whatsoever. In fact, research shows there could even be some health benefits.
So wait, not only is it not bad,
Right.
it could be good for you.
Potentially. Studies show it can reduce stress and anxiety, lead to better sleep.
Wow.
And for men, there's even a possible link to lower risk of prostate cancer.
Lower risk of prostate cancer. That's a big deal.
It is. The thinking is that regular ejaculation, whether through sex or masturbation, might help flush out harmful stuff from the prostate gland.
Okay.
More research is needed, of course, to really nail that down.
Right, so not a surefire prevention method,
Right.
but definitely worth looking into more.
Absolutely.
It's already blowing my mind.
Yeah.
And speaking of things that feel good,
Yeah.
the articles mention this whole flood of hormones released during masturbation. Dopamine, endorphins, oxytocin.
It's like a party in your brain.
It really does. What's going on there?
Well, these hormones are all about pleasure,
Right.
relaxation, and even those feelings of social connection.
Interesting.
Dopamine, for example, is often called the reward hormone,
Okay.
and it reinforces pleasurable activities, making you want to do them again.
So that's why it feels so good.
Exactly.
But what about that post-nut clarity everyone jokes about online?
Yeah.
Is that real or just a meme?
It's definitely a popular topic online, that's for sure.
Right.
No hard science on it yet.
Okay.
But anecdotally, lots of folks say they feel more focused, clearer-headed after. Could be those calming hormones we talked about.
Yeah.
Or maybe just pent-up energy and tension getting released. Who knows?
Interesting. So we've got stress reduction, potential health perks, maybe even a focus boost.
Yeah, it's quite a list.
But things get a little more complex when we talk mental health. Right?
Oh, absolutely.
The articles mention possible benefits there, but also negative feelings.
Yeah.
Even a link to depression in some cases.
Right. It's not a simple picture.
Help us understand this. It seems kind of tricky.
Yeah, for sure. It's important to remember that while masturbation itself isn't inherently bad,
Okay.
our relationship with it mentally and emotionally, that can be influenced by a lot of things. For some folks, it's a healthy way to cope with stress, explore their sexuality, or just enjoy themselves. But for others, it can get tied up with guilt, shame,
I see.
even addiction.
So it's not one size fits all.
Exactly.
It sounds like those cultural and religious beliefs we talked about can really color someone's experience.
Huge impact. If you're raised to believe it's wrong or sinful, those messages stick with you.
Right.
Can lead to a lot of inner conflict, even if those beliefs don't match up with reality.
It's almost like unlearning those negative messages,
Yeah.
replacing them with something more accepting.
I think that's a great way to put it. And that's where open communication comes in with yourself and maybe with a therapist or counselor you trust.
So separating the act itself from all the judgment and shame society piles on.
Exactly.
And then there's this idea of masturbation addiction,
Right.
which you said isn't an official diagnosis, but the articles describe it as a real struggle for some.
It is. And it's important to approach this carefully.
Okay.
Avoid language that might stigmatize anyone struggling.
Right.
But to answer your question, some people experience it as compulsive,
Okay.
out of control. They might do it excessively
Yeah.
to the point it interferes with their life, relationships, work.
It's like any behavioral addiction.
Exactly.
The activity becomes about chasing that dopamine rush, not genuine pleasure or connection.
You got it.
And while we don't have all the answers, researchers are looking into dopamine's role and how personality or life experiences might make someone more prone to these compulsive behaviors.
It's fascinating stuff.
It is a reminder that even generally healthy things can become a problem if they take over and impact your well-being negatively.
For sure.
So where do we go from here? We've covered a lot.
Right.
Myth-busting, the mental health connection, addiction.
Right.
What's next on our deep dive journey?
Well, I think it's time we shift gears
Okay.
and talk about relationships.
All right, let's do it.
One of the articles you sent dives into masturbation within marriage,
Oh, yeah.
which can be, well, a touchy subject.
It does feel like something people might not want to talk about openly.
Right.
So is it always a bad thing if someone masturbates while in a relationship?
Good question.
Or can it actually be healthy?
It's tricky.
Yeah.
Like so many things in life, it's not black and white.
Right.
Masturbation in a relationship can absolutely be healthy,
Okay.
even add to the intimacy.
It
all comes down to communication and understanding.
The couple's got to be open and honest
Exactly.
about their needs and desires.
Yep, that's key.
But I could see how it could cause problems too.
Oh, for sure.
If one partner feels insecure,
Yeah,
inadequate
right.
because of the other person's masturbation habits.
It's definitely a sensitive area. If it becomes a way to avoid intimacy or it leads to guilt or resentment, that's a sign something needs to be talked about.
Yeah, better to talk it out
Definitely.
than let it fester and cause tension.
Absolutely. And it's not just about what you don't want.
Right.
It's being honest about what you do want and need from your partner,
Totally.
sexually and emotionally.
Makes sense.
One of the articles mentioned sexless marriages.
Ooh, that sounds a little scary.
It can be a loaded term for sure.
Is that always a bad thing?
It's not necessarily a problem
Okay.
if both partners are genuinely content with the level of sexual intimacy or lack thereof.
So it's about individual preferences.
Yes.
And being on the same page.
Exactly. But if it is causing distress,
Right.
then what?
Yeah. What can couples do?
Well, as we've said, open communication is huge EE.
Yeah.
Talk honestly about your feelings, your needs, your
That's-
concerns.
Right.
Sometimes a decline in sexual activity can be a symptom of something deeper going on in the relationship.
Like what kind of things?
Oh, it could be anything: stress, life changes, health problems, medication side effects.
I guess sometimes it could just be mismatched libidos.
Ah, yes, libido.
Yeah.
We haven't really defined that yet.
Good point.
It just means a person's overall desire for sexual activity.
Okay, makes sense.
And it's perfectly normal for it to fluctuate over time,
Right.
Hormones, stress, even relationship dynamics can affect it.
So if one partner's libido is way lower,
Yeah,
that could definitely cause some friction.
for sure. But a decline in sexual activity
Yeah.
doesn't have to mean the end of a marriage.
That's good to hear.
With open communication, empathy, maybe some guidance from a therapist,
Details.
lots of couples can work through those challenges,
Right.
find ways to reconnect.
That's hopeful.
This whole deep dive has really shown me how complex masturbation is.
Me too. It's been eye-opening.
It's so much more than just a physical act.
Right. It's tied to our mental health relationships,
Yeah.
our beliefs about the world.
It's fascinating to me how it can be both a source of pleasure and a reflection of our emotional state.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
If someone's struggling with shame or insecurity,
Right.
that could definitely show up in how they experience masturbation.
Exactly. Speaking of inner struggles,
Yeah.
one article talked about the negative impact of cultural and religious belief,
Right.
the stigma around masturbation.
It can be a lot to unpack.
It is. When we internalize those messages, it can lead to shame, guilt,
Yeah.
even self-loathing.
Wow.
Makes it hard to have a healthy and fulfilling sexual life.
It's almost like we're taught to be ashamed of pleasure,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to our own bodies.
And that's a harmful message. We need to challenge that.
For sure.
Recognize that pleasure is natural,
Uh-huh.
and masturbation is a healthy, normal way to experience it.
It's about taking back our sexuality,
Absolutely.
defining it on our own terms.
Yes. Free from judgment.
And that brings us to something the article touched on.
Oh, yeah.
The idea that masturbation can actually be empowering,
I like
a
that.
tool for self-discovery.
It's true. By exploring our bodies and what feels good, we learn more about ourselves, our sexuality.
And that can make us more confident.
Totally. More assertive in all areas of life, not just the bedroom.
Thank you for joining us today on the Lisners Podcast. If you need support, you can call us on 011-4084-8400 or write to us on our email, help@lisners.com. Stay connected with us as we continue to explore and empower each other. Until next time, Take care and be kind to yourself.